Hello and welcome to Take This TV, the television book club podcast where each week we watch an episode or two of our favorite shows and we talk about it with our friends in the fandom, and that is you. I'm Carmen Askernes and I'm joined as always by Kimberly Woods. Hello.
Hey, hot potatoes.
This season we're talking about Shogun. What are we watching today?
Today we're talking about episode 5, Broken to the Fist.
Oof.
Here is the official episode description from FX. Blackthorn and Mariko struggle to contain the secret that could get them both killed. Yabushige searches for the spy who has betrayed his intentions to Lord Toranaga. Dun, dun, dun. I love that Blackthorn and Mariko are, called out. I mean, it's definitely, underneath all that's happening here, but, I love that the description is about their struggle to contain their secret.
Mari Thorne's secret.
Ooh. Oh, gosh. Oh, man. So this episode was wild. We open on the consequence of the son's actions. Then we hear some hooves thundering in the distance, and bum, 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 Lord Toranaga has returned. He's returned.
Here I am, basking.
And then my next reaction was, oh my gosh, Carmen was right. Buntaro is back. He did not die.
I knew it. No body, no death.
Apparently, after 22 days, he has returned. Supposedly, a contingent of Ronin helped him escape. By the time they reached Edo, only 2 men were left. So against all odds.
I don't buy it.
Supposedly.
I don't buy it. He's a spy, man. He's a spy.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Back in Osaka, the council discusses Toranaga's replacement. And, Toranaga, seeing multiple steps ahead, he knew that this would happen. They're having a hard time. Everybody wants to put their person in for their own interests, and nobody can agree on who it should be. They've been sitting there for, ever.
Okay, I was a little confused about, if they were skipping ahead in time and it's they were having multiple meetings, or if it's this meeting has been going on a long time and over time people are leaving.
I thought it was, maybe it's been going on for a long time. They kept cutting to the incense, and I was like, okay, so they're replacing the incense over and over again. And by the end of it, it's what is his name? Sugiyaka? The oldest member of the council is there, and he's hacking.
Yeah, he's coughing up a lung, yeah.
I don't know if it's from inhaling all the incense, or now that everybody else has left, he doesn't refrain from. I don't know. I just thought that moment was hilarious. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Ishido looks kind of offended.
Ishido is a Saturday morning cartoon villain, and I really love it because he it also, something later in this episode, it makes it even better. But he wants so bad to be something that he's not, and he's not on Toranaga's level.
No.
But he hates it so much.
Yeah. After Toranaga has returned, Mariko hands a journal of all that Blackthorn has been doing while Toranaga's been away.
And everything
she's been keeping the details. Yeah. Then we learn that Toranaga would like for her and Buntaro to live with Blackthorn. He says, this way you can serve them both.
Ooh. I was
gosh.
The drama is about to go down.
Recipe for disaster, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oof. Can you imagine? Oh, man.
Your wife, consort, and the person who you've been messing around with and their husband all living in the same house. I don't see any problems with that at all.
Easy peasy. Just another day. Toranaga is pissed at his son, rightfully so. He basically tells him that he was broken to another man's fist. Which seems to be a falconry saying. Yeah.
You know what? This was one of the hardest core versions of I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And I was like, dang. The way he like described how Yabushige and was it Ono? Is that his nephew Omi? How
Omi, yeah.
Yabushige and Omi just manipulated his son. I was like, dang. He like immediately he knew what happened.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
thought, because before I was like, maybe he does have a blind spot and it's his son. But no, like, clearly he's back. You know, it's not like it seems like he didn't leave him alone for a long time, so he probably knew this might be a weak spot, potentially.
I feel like he
He
was
knew.
giving Nagakato a test, and I feel like he failed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He strips him of his command of the cannon regiment. But yeah, that cold shoulder, oof.
Yeah.
That moment when he comes up with the pheasant and then he's just like, give it to Blackthorn. And he's just like turns away from his son. It's like, oh.
I wouldn't be surprised if someday if Nagakato turns on his dad, because I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah. It is an important lesson though, like, seriously, like Toranaga's like, no, you need to like, people can actually do the hunting for you. Like, you know, you need to know how to make the falcon fly, and you're the one that's being handled by other people, so get it together. Until you can learn that lesson, like, get out of here.
Important lesson about power. And I mean,
yeah.
I think it's also like, you know, unfortunately for his son, like his son's never gonna have a normal life. And so it's like it's an important lesson he has to learn to survive in the world that they're in. And it's like, dang. Yeah, tough love.
Yep. I feel like in this episode a lot of people are learning about the consequences of their, like, what sort of effect they can have. Yep. Back in Osaka, Ishido receives Josen's head.
The disrespect.
So he learns of the betrayal. Yeah. Blackthorn Hatamoto. Remember we were trying to figure out what the word was for what they call him, the Hatamoto. Receives the pheasant from Toranaga, and he wants to hang it up and prepare it. And his whole household is traumatized.
They're like, it's gonna stink. It's gonna rot.
Yeah.
In
They're
my
like,
head,
rot?
I was like,
do you know this word rot?
What dish is he trying to make? Like, why is he doing that?
They're horrified, and they're all like, he's gonna have his own silverware, his own knives. We're not order him a special set of knives that would keep separate from everything else.
Yeah, Fuji's trying to like work around it and like everybody separate our stuff and his stuff. Yeah.
Buntaro comes to the household. He has this exchange with Fuji, who's his niece. He's kind of trying to gauge the situation. He asks if she's had to pillow with the barbarian. And basically, she tells him that Blackthorn is pillowing other women. She doesn't know.
Like your wife.
Yeah, your wife. He's not pillowing me. I was
technically
dying.
Married to his nephew or his niece and pillowing his wife. Well,
yep. Oof. Oof.
Oof. Yeah. Ooh, the drama.
We get Toranaga confronting Yabushige. Was this his idea for these cannons? And he's like, no, it's Omi's.
I swear, it wasn't.
Yeah, my fate is tied to yours. Why would I do this?
Yep, Yabushige, steady lying.
Oh my gosh. And then Toranaga is like, you know, basically Yabushige is like, well, I will punish my nephew. And then Toranaga's like, well, why would you punish him? He presented an opportunity. This is a great thing, because now, you know, Ishido has to come to us.
A clever tactician.
Yeah, he's very clever.
It's so good because it's like he knows that it's all Yabushige, and he's just like rubbing it in, and like he's doing this to see how Yabushige is gonna react, and it's just like, man, nobody is on Toranaga's level. It's so good.
Yabushige is, oh my gosh. In that next scene, he like tells one of his people, one of his generals, like to go to Osaka because he wants to fix things with Ishido when this all turns to shit.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still like, he's saying the stuff to Toranaga. He's just
he hasn't
like,
learned.
dude, what are you doing? This is so dumb.
Yep.
Can't you see the brilliance of this man? Like, what are you doing?
Yabushige is just looking out for himself, and
I guess so, but he's like trying to play both sides. It's like, dude, you're gonna be dead.
He also tries to intimidate Omi because he's like, all of this belongs to me, and you still answer to me, and you need to find the spy. I told you should have found Toranaga's spy already. So yeah,
yep,
it's not looking good.
It's not looking good. Meanwhile, back at the Blackthorn residence, it's dinner time. Oh my gosh. Here we go with the guys trying to one-up each other. Immediately when Buntaro first comes, he wants to be called Buntaro-sama. Not, because he says, like, only my friends call me.
Well, he says he doesn't want to be called Buntaro. He wants to be called by his actual name.
The other name.
Which I
with
forget.
Sama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Buntaro is only his close friends.
Yeah.
You're right.
He was, like, trying to essentially intimidate Blackthorn.
Yeah, and basically he's like, my bow can fly faster than your cannons. It's already laying it. Oh, gosh. And then he catches a fly from the pheasant while he's saying this, which is pretty impressive. He's just like,
the machismo is like radiating. It's in the air, yeah.
Blackthorn has prepared, well, not himself, but had an English rabbit stew prepared for his guests, which everybody is gagging at. And Mariko was like, yeah. We're particular eaters. Yeah. It is our loss.
And like the rabbit stew is like all clumpy when he's putting it in the bowl, and I'm like, that does not look good.
It didn't look good. I felt a little bad for him because, in the last episode he was trying the fermented soybean dish or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, they're not gonna try it. Yeah. So I felt a little bit bad, but then he was like, well, it's not the same without sharing, so then he doesn't even eat it.
Yeah.
And then he gets made fun of for slurping his noodles by Buntaro. Yeah. He's like, he's slurping him like a monkey. Look at that guy.
The disrespect.
I love how Mariko translates it. She's like, the sound you make while eating reveals the depth of your pleasure.
Mariko is a master diplomat. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Which just makes him do it even more.
And then Buntaro starts to do it.
And then Blackthorn makes fun of the little cups that they drank sake out of.
Yeah, he says like, real men drink out of big cups.
Yeah, so he like tosses his sake out, picks up his bowl from the noodles and pours the sake in it. And is like slurping it up.
Yeah, this is after he interpreted that Buntaro was insulting him, and Mariko's trying to like keep the peace, and he's like, no. So Blackthorn instigates a little bit.
It's just like the perfect storm happening at these moments.
Two prideful men, yeah.
Buntaro like matches this, grabs his bowl, pours his sake in, and is like, I'm in. And it turns into this drinking contest. And poor Mariko's face, she's just like trying to be behind the eightfold fence, like.
Yeah, the fence is crumbling. She's like, I need more fences. My lover and my husband are having a drinking contest.
Yeah. And we already know that Fuji is concerned before Buntaro's here because she makes some sort of comment when she hears that he's coming to live with them, telling Mariko, like, you would tell me if Anjin was in danger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that there's this, like, it's going to be this bubbling over that's happening here.
Yeah. I think Fuji is getting really close to Blackthorn also. We were talking before we started recording, and I was like, I wasn't on this train before, but now I'm kind of shipping Fuji and Blackthorn.
Yep,
what
Carmen's
was
got a
it?
new ship. You
Thornji
either said Thornji or Fuji Thorn.
or
But yeah,
Fuji Thorn?
Thornji.
Let us know.
What should we go with? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Blackthorn wants to hear all about Buntaro's story of escape. And as an audience member, so did I.
Mm-hmm. I was
Because
like,
I
yeah,
wanted to see,
Buntaro.
I wanted to like watch him while he told it so I could see like, is he lying? If I could see behind his lies.
Yeah,
But we don't get to hear it.
He stares off into the middle distance and he's like, heroism is for the dead and stories are for children. And I was like, oh, I like stories.
And then he wants to hear one from Blackthorn. He's like, you tell a story, a war story. And poor Mariko at this point, she's like, please listen. My husband is tired. He's had a lot to drink. You must tell him a story.
Yep.
But he doesn't listen.
No. And Mariko is kind of like, she's not really translating as much because they're both kind of insulting each other. But then Blackthorn says no to Buntaro. And then he's like, bring me my
war
bow.
Now.
Yeah.
He's like, war now. And does like a bow motion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. And then he's like, which post? Right or left? You must pick. Blackthorn picks the right one, which is right near Mariko's face.
Blackthorn's not thinking, yeah.
I'm like, oh, Blackthorn. She can't move. She has to sit still while her drunk husband shoots his bow right past her face into a bullseye of the right post. But it's pretty terrifying to watch.
Yeah, while it was happening, I was like, is Mariko about to die? What's going to happen if Mariko dies?
And poor Mariko, I get the sense it's like, this has happened before.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly. You know, she's like, oh, like she knew this was coming. This moment has arrived that she was dreading, and it's like all she can do is endure.
Put up that 8-fold fence.
Put up that 8-fold fence. Meanwhile, Blackthorn is becoming horrified and actually says after the scene, like, dude, treat your wife better, bro.
Yeah. And she does translate that. Reluctantly, but she does.
Yeah. And then Buntaro is basically like, well, tell him what your name is and tell him about your filthy line.
Yeah.
And Blackthorn's like, look, you don't have to do it. You could just make up a story. He wouldn't know. You know, like, you don't have to tell me. But she does. We learn the truth.
So her father was essentially, he killed the Taiko who was a tyrant, right?
Yeah, before the current Taiko, yeah. Mm-hmm. The previous. Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, he was like labeled as a traitor. And his punishment was that he had to kill his whole family, except Mariko, and then commit seppuku. And I was like, that's hardcore.
Yeah. And she was just married. And every year she asks for permission to commit seppuku, basically, on the anniversary. And her husband says she has to live. And this, Carmen, was fascinating because I was reading on the FX site. You know, they have that cool little character breakdown, and then they have little episode breakdowns about real-life events. Mariko is based on a real person, and this kind of story is true.
Oh.
Like the story about basically somebody whose father was a general and a famous warlord. Basically, like, he was trying to conquer in order to quell war. So, like, I guess that's why some people were mad, because in some eyes he was actually like promoting peace because he was like stopping war by military force. Mm. But then, you know, like the person saw him as a tyrant though, because he was doing it by violent acts. So I just think it's interesting. Like this was a real person, and this like did happen. So it's cool to see like where some of the real life events tie in with the current story.
Wow.
Into this work of fiction, but yeah.
Dang. Yeah, like that classic saying, like
crazy.
violence is the answer to violence. Like, nothing stops violence like more violence, right? Man, yikes. Yeah. Man,
Yep.
Mariko's trauma is so next level. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And then Mariko basically tells him after her story, like, please remember the eightfold fence, and she excuses herself from dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Big time.
Oof. Blackthorn wakes up in the middle of the night.
He's like asleep on his face.
He's knocked out after that sake.
So drunk.
There's violence happening in his household. He hears, Buntaro hitting Mariko, so of course he runs in. By the time he gets there, Buntaro's outside. Mariko is there with the bruises on her face. Poor Fuji. She's
Fuji's
just
caught in the middle.
Well. Both of them are just both Mariko and Fuji. Fuji tries to stop him from entering so he doesn't see Mariko in the first place and what has happened. She cannot stop him from entering, so he enters, he sees this horror. He's upset, and we see Mariko truly kind of lose it for the first time when she screams at them both to get out.
Mm-hmm. The fence has fallen.
Yeah. The fence has fallen here. So that was kind of a jarring, poignant moment.
Yeah. And then that is like, Blackthorn is set off by that, and he's looking for blood. And so he rushes out into the street to find Buntaro with his pistol, and he's gonna finish Buntaro off. But to his surprise, Buntaro bows before him and tries to say, like, "Oh, I'm sorry for disgracing your home. It was the sake."
Yep.
And
he puts his swords down. I was like, okay. I thought that was it for a moment, Carmen.
I thought Blackthorn was gonna blow him away.
Me too.
In front of everybody, because we see the people kind of start looking outside, like, "Oh, what's all that noise? What's going on?" And but Blackthorn shows him mercy, and
Buntaro apologized, which I was surprised that he actually.
You know what? I mean, it definitely seemed like this isn't the first time that he abused Mariko.
No.
But he was definitely trying to use that as an excuse. And I feel like he was probably afraid of what would happen if Torunaga found out.
Yeah. In that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when Blackthorn walks away, we do see the right post of the entrance. And we see that Buntaro did hit the right post, even though he was drunk out of his mind. But yeah.
Twice.
So even drunk out of his mind, he's very dangerous. So we've learned.
Yeah. I did think his ego would be too big, but maybe not when it's saving his own hide.
Mm-hmm.
That was surprising. Then the next day, we get the scene where Blackthorn finds Mariko by herself. And these are some of the best lines of this episode, in my opinion. Like, all the writing in, like, the series has been amazing. But man, this writing is so good. Basically, Blackthorn tells Mariko, he's just like, hey, if you want to be free of the shitless coward, be free of him. And then they both have this like commentary on imprisonment and what it means for each of them. Blackthorn tells Mariko, you're shuffling with your manners and buried self for what? What becomes of you? And Mariko says to Blackthorn, if freedom is all you live for, you'll never be free of yourself. And I was like, ooh. Ooh.
Bars.
That was such a good exchange. It's like, oh my gosh, these lines.
They truly see each other. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And it was one of those things. It was like, star-crossed lovers and all that. And like they, you can tell that they both have feelings for each other, but it's just like they're so different. Their lives are so different. And they feel like they want to help each other, but they're both really misunderstood by the other. And it's heartbreaking. And then, Mariko tells Blackthorn that from now on, the only words that they're going to speak are going to be from somebody else's mouth. And I was like, dang. Oh, shot through the soul.
Oh my gosh. Blackthorn in this episode learns the effect of his stature, of his status as Hatamoto? Is that what we called it?
Something like that.
Yeah, Hatamoto. Yeah. Basically that his words have weight.
And
he comes back to find, that the gardener is dead.
This is somebody that he knew and talked to, was friendly with. And now he's dead.
Yep. Now he's dead because the gardener, they were getting complaints about the rotting pheasant, and somebody came to inspect it, and they had to have somebody take it down, and basically the gardener volunteered because he's older and had been sick. So he was like, I'll take one for the team because he knew it would lead to his death. He took it down to save the house. And because Blackthorn in the, when he got the pheasant as a gift was like, if anybody touches it, they die, kind of as a joke.
Really absentmindedly, just a throwaway thing that he said.
Not realizing okay, this is law now. Your words are written into law here. He's upset at Fuji, who, she had to order this. She had no choice because of his words. And she's frustrated at him because he's the one that, he's the one that declared this. None of this would have happened if he hadn't said those words. So yeah, it's a very hard lesson that Blackthorn has learned.
Yeah, and Fuji's like, I'm sorry, take my life. And he's like, what? Life is meaningless to you people. Go away. And he's freaking out. And then he takes off to go find Toranaga.
Yeah. And basically he's like, look, I want my ships. I want my men so I can leave. Training's done. I'm out of here. And Torunaga, I love Torunaga. He's just he looks at Mariko. He looks at Blackthorn. He's like, there's a shadow on both of you.
He knows something is up.
Yeah. He's like, oh my gosh. What is that? And then Mariko's translation here too. After he says there's a shadow, she translates this to Blackthorn as, he wants to know what troubles you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much fun to see when her translation deviates from what's actually being said.
Yeah. And I love that Toranaga just gets up and walk away and he's like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, he's like, I can't deal with this nonsense. You handle it.
Yeah, it's whatever drama y'all got going on, that's nothing to do with me.
Oh my gosh. And he basically says to Carmen what you're saying about the last scene, that he's still in his feelings about, he's troubled about the country, life having no value, meaningless rituals, the gardener who died for nothing, and then Mariko's painting a picture for him about how things work and why this happened, and tells him the story about how the gardener volunteered, he was sick, he was older. Anyway, yeah, she puts it out there for him. But the interesting thing too, it's I wonder now after this episode, because he's learned how much weight his words can have, if he'll learn from this, maybe he can use his status, what to do things, to play the game, because he's been doing these things his own way pretty much, and it's kind of worked out for him. But he's here. He should be learning the rules and learning how he can use them.
Yeah, he's been being very flippant.
Like Lord Torunaga. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's similar to how Lord Toranaga scolded his son earlier. And it's Blackthorn is also sort of being absent-minded about the situation that he's in. And so he has to learn this lesson the hard way at the cost of the gardener's life.
Toranaga, when he pieces out from this nonsense that's happening, goes to the edge of the cliff and is gazing out. He sees these birds flying up, and Mariko is explaining to Blackthorn, we live and we die, we control nothing beyond that, which is so poignant in this moment too, because earthquake happens right then.
Mm-hmm.
Proving her point.
As soon as Lord Toranaga walked towards the edge of the cliff, I was like, something's about to go down. He's about to get sniped. Something's going to happen.
Yep. There's this massive earthquake, landslides. Toranaga goes down We don't know where he is. Blackthorn leaps into action, slides
He's a man
down
of
the...
action. Yeah. I love that everybody's like, what happened? He just jumps off the cliff.
Oh gosh, he's still trying to control.
Mm-hmm.
They find like a piece of his outfit, and then ultimately they find him under all the dirt. They pull him out, a couple pats on the back, coughs up the dirt. He's alive! Yay! Thank goodness.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! Huzzah! But he does not have his swords.
He doesn't. And then Blackthorn. Oh, because earlier we learned from Mariko when she's fighting with Blackthorn that the story about Fuji's dad and the swords is a lie. And they keep the lie, maintain the lie, because they feel like that's what Fuji merits because she's an honorable person and they love her and all that stuff. And so Blackthorn offers the swords, and he says that they were Fuji's father's. He offers them to Toranaga. And I feel like Toranaga knows the lie, so that's why he laughs.
Yeah, he's like laughing. Yeah. They were bought with 3 bags of rice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But Toranaga respects the gesture and what it means. Because you can't walk, the leader cannot walk without their swords.
Yeah.
So it's a big moment.
And the landslide has affected the rest of the village, and then Blackthorn runs back, and he's running through the wreckage, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" Oh, you were shocked? Oh, because of the landslide? Yeah, it was crazy. Towards the
village. Yeah,
I was like, "Dang, did everybody die?"
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to get that in there.
No, it was
that
terrifying.
Shot was horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, seeing something like that in real life would be a nightmare. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thankfully, it looked like most of the village was still intact. There were a lot of people hurt, maybe some people dead. And then we see that Fuji is badly injured, and Blackthorn reaches out and touches her hand. And that's when Thornji is born. And I was like, oh.
That was a spark.
Oh. Yeah. And then kiss.
And then pillow.
Yeah.
The incident with the gardener also gives a chance for the headman and spy, because earlier in the episode, Toranaga knew that Yabushige was hunting for the spy, and so he tells his spy, Miraji, which is the name he goes by. In actuality, he's a famous samurai. Secret samurai. He tells him to find another to throw under the bus, and so conveniently, now that the gardener is dead, he basically says he found out that the gardener was the spy, but he just died. So
Yabushige is like, lucky for him.
Oh my gosh, this episode's wild. Meanwhile, at the end of this episode, Lady Ochiba finally arrives in Osaka.
This is the first time we've seen her, right?
Ooh, we only saw her like in a flashback briefly when the Taika was dying.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But this is really the first time we get like a glimpse of her true character. Oof! Wow, what a villain here, Carmen.
She was giving me Azula. She was giving me Cersei Lannister. I was like, I feel like Lord Toranaga has an equal now.
Man, and the lilting quality of her voice in this episode, like, it sounded like a song. I was like, ooh, it's like a siren song. Like, it was just like captivating. I was like, woo! She was talking about how Toranaga had paralyzed the council, and she was disappointed. And then the guy was like, well, Ishido was basically like, I would give my life for your son. And she pounced. She was like, in that case.
He walked right into her trap.
Yeah, in that case.
She didn't even
She got him.
As soon as he finished talking, she just jumped because she was waiting for him to say that.
It was so good. She says, the council will answer to me.
She about to mess some stuff up.
Wow. Now I kind of understood maybe why Toranaga had her out of play for a little bit here, too. Because she's a force.
It seems like it might have been a fatal mistake for him to let her go. So
She is, yeah.
we'll see what happens.
She seems like she can play the game, so
yeah.
No, I'm intrigued.
It was definitely like the moment where the big bad, who's kind of been like bumbling, you find out is answering to another big bad who's like the real deal, and so I'm excited to see what happens.
Me too. I can't wait to see the rest of the council squirming under her.
Mm-hmm.
Under her might.
I love it. I'm excited to see what happens. Yeah.
Me too. Well, thank you so much for watching along with us, and see you guys next time. We're at Take This TV on TikTok and Instagram. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you thought. And remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.